thing is about President Trump. He's got exactly the right enemies. And today I want to talk to you about those enemies and what a threat they pose and how we can all help President Trump fight those enemies. Now, our enemies make fun of President Trump for pointing out the fake media, right? Let me read something that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807, because nothing has changed. He said, "Nothing can be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into that polluted vehicle. I will add that the man who never looks into a newspaper is better informed than he who reads them. Inasmuch as he who knows nothing is nearer to truth than those whose minds are filled with falsehood and errors." We see out there in the crowd. We see people whose minds have been filled with falsehoods and errors. So it's like Ronald Reagan said, it's not that the liberals are ignorant, it's that they know so much that isn't so. Every day there's a rain of fake news from the media. The economy's recovering. We can't fix public pensions. There's no problems there. Look, the stock market's going up, so we're all better off. We don't need manufacturing in this country. We can all get rich flipping burgers, right? How many of you people believe that crap? But now we are starting to wake up. And when we wake up, that makes us the deplorables. Because anybody who wakes up enough to know that their own government has been screwing them for decades, well, now you're a Nazi, or an anti-Semite, or a white nationalist, right? No way. No way. What's the biggest lie this week? Our Attorney General, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, he's a commie agent. He's going to sell us out and put us under a global communist regime, right? We all know that President Trump and his people are for America first, not for the Russians first. We all know just what political party has been selling out to the Russians. I've been watching this my whole life and I'm an old man. Remember Ted Kennedy? Remember Ted Kennedy and the lightweight son of the heavyweight champion, Senator John Tunney? Remember them going to Russia to talk to the CIA, the KGB head, Yuri Andropov, about how we could disarm America? And nobody said squat then. Remember when Clinton sold Chinese ICBM parts so they could build ICBMs and blow us up? Nobody said squat then. Nobody said squat when Benny Sanders honeymooned in Russia. Nobody said squat when Hillary sold 20% of the uranium to the Russians. Now it's all about Trump and his administration, right? Nobody said squat when Obama was caught on the microphone saying, well, as soon as the election's over, we can be more accommodating to you, right? And now they're calling for a special prosecutor. These people are nuts. There's no crime in talking to the Russians. These are the greatest hypocrites in the history of the earth. They're not trying to protect America. They're trying to protect their own power. Everything they do is about their own power. Now they're out trying to sabotage the presidency. They don't want to rest until Trump is impeached. Well, I tell you what, it's not going to happen, right? Creepy story. Obama's got an 8,500-foot mansion in Washington, D.C., and Valerie Jarrett is moving into it with him and his wife. How about that for a threesome? They're going to control organizing for America. There are 35,000 army of trained agitators, some of whom are probably here today, and they're going to be out trying to mastermind an insurgency against Trump. And it's not going to happen if we help fight them. President Trump is the biggest threat to leftist power these Democrats have ever seen. Because he's dead on correct about the most important issue for America, America first. He wants to control immigration to benefit Americans. Once upon a time, immigration immigration was simple. If someone wanted to come over here, they found a sponsor, and the sponsor had to pay their freight or they would go back. But that wasn't good enough for the Democrats, no. They wanted people to stay here all the time so they could build their empires of dependency and illegal voting. People like Senator Edward Kennedy rewrote the immigration laws to turn the whole country around that way. What a guy, what a guy. But it's not just the politicians who've been selling the country out, it's the judges. I'm a lawyer, I can tell you this. We have an entire generation of judges who are not upholding the rule of law. They are political hacks, and their overriding imperative is to protect the Democratic Party. Like, you can't show voter ID. That would be unconstitutional, right? How many people have seen the anti-voter ID clause in the Constitution? Do you see it there? That's because it's not there. They made it up. And I'm proud to say that Mike Bierman and I are pushing an initiative to require everybody in the state to prove citizenship before they vote. Where is she? Over there. Sign the petitions. Get it on the ballot. Thank you. You know, it was the leftist judges who made up the whole concept of anchor babies. What kind of crap is that? Two parents sneak into a country illegally, they have a kid, and now the kid's a citizen? No other country in the world is so crazy and stupid as to do something like that. And then, when it comes time to deport the parents because they've done something bad, we're the ones who are breaking up the family, right? It's so awful. Why don't they take their kids with them, huh? And then there's all the immigration crime. If you take the time to read President Trump's executive order on immigration, you will find that he is prioritizing deporting criminals. And even when he does that, how many of you know that in Oregon, 80% of the time when an immigrant comes before an immigration judge accused of a crime, the immigration judge says, oh well, let's just let him stay anyway, we don't care. That's what Trump is trying to change. Like that Multnomah County judge who, when she found out ICE was out in the hall, let the immigrant go out the back door so he could escape. But these judges are a real problem. Most of you know that the United States Code says that the president can suspend the admission of a class of aliens, any class of aliens. And so the courts write these 20-page, single-spaced opinions, and their answer is, we're not even going to mention the statute. We're going to pretend it's not there. What kind of judges write an opinion like that?
Constitution.
Not judges who care about the rule of law, I can tell you that. These modern judges, they are diluting our constitutional rights to nothingness at the same time that any goat herder out in Yemen who wants to come over here and establish Sharia law, oh yeah, you've got rights in the United States Constitution because we're all crazy. You know, our enemies know that if we keep importing third world people who have no experience with liberty, no tradition of liberty, and maybe not even any liking for liberty, they can destroy this country. That is what they are about, and that is what Trump is trying to stop. And with the election of Trump, our enemies are more dangerous than ever. They are ruthless. We are in a life and death battle for this country, and these globalists are not going away. Now is not the time for complacency because our country is at stake. The global finance people, the global media people, the global corporations, they're all solidly behind this idiotic notion that we need a world without borders. They're nuts. And then they're solidly behind totalitarian government with PC thought policing so no one can say anything against it. Or they'll come in here and shriek like little children because they don't want to hear the truth.